Power. Who has it? Who needs it? And how that has shaped our society has never been more evident than during this health crisis we are experiencing today. But as much as we're all adversely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic right now, there are those in our community who are suffering and sacrificing disproportionately. They are the people of color in our community. They are our community members with inadequate health care, others who may have lost access to the services they used to depend on. Still, they may be those in our community who've lost or are at risk of losing their jobs and homes, and others providing us with essential services on the front lines without having essential protections themselves. During this extraordinary time, we call on funders and donors to step up. You have the opportunity and the responsibility to exert the unique power at your disposal. Through the resources you have and the influence you wield, in order to be part of the solution right now, post-crisis, and in the future. This month marks the second year since the National Committee for Responsive Philanthropy released Power Moves, our self-assessment toolkit for how to exercise power that centers equity and social justice. In the 2 years that we've used the guide to work with forward-thinking funders committed to breaking the mold on antiquated philanthropic practices, we've been encouraged to see that more and more funders in the sector are taking steps to apply an equity and social justice lens in their grant making and beyond. It has been especially heartening to see funders modeling these practices during this crisis because it shows us that it can be done. Grantmakers all over the country are building power in their communities by supporting equitable, long-term, community-driven solutions like community organizing and advocacy. Community foundations all over the nation are stepping up by ensuring that the needs and solutions that exist in the community are at the forefront of their responses to the COVID-19 pandemic. Some, like the Boston Foundation, have been critical in bringing together their community resources to support their most vulnerable community members. To date, the Boston Foundation has increased giving from their donor-advised funds by 246% compared to this time last year. Meanwhile, other community foundations like the Seattle Foundation have tried to ease the burdens of those whose services are especially critical at this time, like immigrant rights groups, and going above and beyond by committing to supporting these organizations beyond the pandemic through to the recovery efforts. Grantmakers are also sharing power with their grantees by responding to their needs on such requests as converting project grants into flexible general operating funds and committing to long-term support. Funders like the James Irvine Foundation have been applauded by their grantees for the proactiveness of their response, their commitment to long-term support, and the ease and flexibility with which they have deployed resources to grantees working on critical issues like workers' rights. Even in some areas that haven't been hit as hard yet by the pandemic, funders, many of them family foundations like the TLL Temple Foundation in rural East Texas, are ensuring that their grantees are prepared by preemptively offering flexible funding and reporting requirements and offering additional support where grantees need it. Finally, grantmakers are stepping up beyond their grant making to wield their power by raising awareness, advocating for their communities, and using their influence to convene change makers. Funders like the Missouri Foundation for Health have been working with their local governments to ensure that their government's social and health infrastructures are able to sufficiently address the needs of the most vulnerable in their community. Others, like the Open Society Foundation, are supporting the grassroots and advocacy work of their grantees on the ground. They are directing an additional $130 million towards efforts to protect the rights of vulnerable groups and the policies that the U.S. government is enacting to address the pandemic. We applaud these funders for modeling what philanthropy at its best looks like and call on the sector to make these practices the norm. As the funders we've just highlighted demonstrate, all funders have the opportunity and capability to build, share, and wield their power no matter their size or their issue areas. We built the tool, now you too can take the step today.